Hi, I'm Broxy, and for today's Honda adventure riding tip, we're going to be talking about rivers. Out of all the obstacles that you might come across on your adventure, rivers are the thing that might scare you the most. I know they did for me. There are a lot of things to consider when coming up to a river. If you've been coming down a really long, steep hill to get to one, then your front brake discs could be really hot and they could warp when you hit the water. You might want to give it a bit of a cool off, but most of the time you should be able to get through okay. The thing that you do want to do is stop and have a look at the depth of it if you're unsure. One of the great things about a good set of adventure riding gear is you can put the pants over top of your boots and then the water pressure sucks them onto your boots, and so it doesn't let much water in at all. So I've got no problems walking up to my knees checking out a river crossing, and it's not going to squelch around for the rest of the ride. If you have turned the bike off to check out a river, make sure that you turn the traction control down before you try it. Getting stuck halfway through a river where the bike's cutting in is one of the most frustrating things I've come across. Of course, rivers are dangerous, so if you're unsure at all, then you could consider turning back. If you don't really have the option of turning back and you're trying to go for a deep one, then I would recommend hopping off and walking alongside it, especially with someone else on the other side of you. It's when the current gets strong that you really have to be careful. I wouldn't want to be pushing one of these bikes across a deep, strong river if I was down current of the bike. On some of the wider rivers, like you might get in the South Island, you could actually have the option of choosing to go up a river or down it. Up a river would be okay, except you've got a lot more of a bow wave coming up over the front and you're going to have less traction. So if there's any option to actually choose to go more downstream, that's going to be a good thing. On some of the smaller rivers, you might find it hard to be climbing out the other side, especially if there's been a few bikes through already and it's dragged water up the other bank. When you're climbing out of a slippery bank, you might want to move your weight back a little bit. As long as you don't have to turn, that could give you the traction you need to get out of that slippery part. But make sure that you can get back up over the front the moment you have to turn again. The other big consideration with rivers is the speed that you intend to go through it. I'd make sure that you don't enter a big river at too much speed. On the other side of the coin, entering too slowly could make you lose traction. So what you want to do is enter in at a nice moderate speed where you can keep a consistent amount of throttle, and that's just going to help you to push through that water nicely. Of course, rivers are very intimidating and most people will want to sit down and take both legs off straight away. That should be your last resort. As much as you can, try to start off standing up. You can weight the bike a lot more, you can move your upper body around a lot more, and then you can use your foot pegs as well for control and for traction. Your second option is to sit down, but with your feet still on the foot pegs. You can still use some foot pegs, and if you want to take a leg off, try to just leave the other foot still on that foot peg. And then if you need to swap, then swap. Should be your last resort to take both feet off sitting down across the river. You might want to do a bit of research as where your air box is. On a bike like this, the air intake is really forward and really high. Of course, if your bike is going to tip over, as quickly as you can, you do want to switch it off. Just like all the other tips, you do want to let down as much air out of the tyres as you can safely do. So to sum things up, when you come across a river that you're a bit unsure about, stop and check it out, have a walk through if you need to. Make sure that you enter it at a nice moderate speed. Then you power through with pretty consistent power as much as you can. Standing is option number 1, using your foot pegs for control. Sitting with your feet on the pegs is number 2. And then thirdly, that's when you can take your feet off and paddle if you have to. The other option is if it's getting quite deep, you can always hop off and walk the bike through as long as you're upstream of it. So if you've got some videos of you and your mates crossing some rivers, we'd love to see them. Chuck them onto this website.